Hello, family. Hope you're well out there, wherever you are, wherever you be. Oh, there we are. I was feeling today to drop in for a moment. I'm starting to do more lives, and Shannon and I have been talking about the tenderness of doing lives as opposed to pre recorded videos. The tenderness of putting our heart and wisdom on the line, kind of like having some skin in the game, in the public sphere, rather than just holding the love and the magic behind the scenes and the safe places in the caves. And we're talking about how this tenderness to do lives, and how the landscape's really changed, since 2019, for instance. In 2019, my whole world was filled with, thousands of beings were beginning to do Facebook Lives and bring themselves forward. And we've actually all been really humbled by the last few years, really deeply humbled by what we call the collective initiations. These last few years really have been, amongst other things, they've been collective initiations, times of like radical deepening, times of radical remembering, initiations, like genuine collective initiations, moments where we have been kind of called back into ourselves. Creation, for whatever reason, in whatever disguise it came, has called us back into ourselves, back into our families, back into our homes, back into our bodies, all the way back. And right before COVID times, I was starting to kind of fly, starting to bring myself out into the world in really big and quite profound ways. And I was doing lives daily, and so reflecting on some of the lives that I used to do, it's really apparent how much has changed and how much my value systems have grown and how much I've deepened. And I think it seems to be a direct reflection of these initiatory times. And we have each been asked to deepen through these initiations, to really face ourselves, to really meet ourselves, and to be changed by that. And not everyone's chosen that path. A lot of my peers have, from the pre-2020 era, have chosen to kind of continue on with the pre-collective initiation themes and values, the things that get something that's outside of themselves. But I'm really proud of Shannon and I, because we've both really lent into what feels like a deeper current and a deeper love. And we've both really been willing to let these collective initiations change us. And I think a lot of people have. I think a lot of people in my field, a lot of beings that I'm connected to have really lent in to the collective initiations of the last few years and been fundamentally changed by them. You can't spend all this time on your own, or all this time in isolation, or all this time, in rebellion, or whatever your story is, all this time kind of like in the caves. Can't do that without being fundamentally shifted. And we've come through one of the chapters of the collective initiations. A lot of people will tell you they're not over yet, and I believe that as well. I think there's a lot more to come over the next 20 years that will really challenge us and make us face ourselves even more. But we've kind of come out this first round to some extent. Having said that, we've still got like stuff with Palestine and Israel going on, and there's probably a lot of other pieces that are really quite shaky in the world right now still. And yet I find myself kind of almost taking a breath after having just got through that chapter. Whew, that was a lot to have to journey and face and be with. And as we kind of come out of that chapter of the collective initiations, it's really apparent to me that there's this this crossroads that we're at again. And it's the crossroads of choosing the life that stirred in us and woke in us and began to kind of come alive in us through the collective initiations, like this deeper life, this richer life that began to reveal itself, this more honest life that began to reveal itself through the collective initiations. And the crossroad has that in one direction and kind of going back to how we did things before in the other direction. There's a crossroads in this moment for all of us. And at some point, we have to choose. At some point, we have to choose where we turn on this crossroads, which way we go, which path we take. Do we allow ourselves to truly, fundamentally be shifted, our entire lives transformed and moved because of the initiations of the last few years? Do we let that touch us? Do we let our lives deeply and profoundly evolve? Or do we go back to how things were, back to what worked before, back to the same old strategies and ways of living? And it's quite a virtuous challenge. There's a virtue challenge within this. We're asked to really connect to something inside ourselves at these particular crossroads that is virtuous and born from a really profound love. Because to choose the path that radically and profoundly changes it all, it takes so much courage, and it takes so much willingness, and it takes such a holding of ourselves, a parenting of ourselves, a nurturing of ourselves. It's scary. The courageous path is scary. The courageous path of actually being changed by what we've just journeyed through it can be really scary. And I'm seeing a lot of my, I'd call them my former peers, people who kind of came through generationally, roughly the same time as me. I've seen a lot of them go back to how things were before, to not actually lean into the soberings they've experienced these last few years. And in some ways, it's quite tender on my heart. It feels like, they're choosing a path that feels less, to me, it feels less integral and less willing, less devotional. But they're also on their own journey, and I really respect that. But there is like a separation of sorts that I experience in it. And I really wish that we could kind of come together and go take the courageous path together and go to places that we've never been before together, which is what I think we're beginning to grow into readiness for now. I often say that the future will be made of a little bit of what once was, a little bit of what currently is, and a little bit of what has never yet been. That's like the recipe for the future. And so I think we have to really learn from what's been. We have to not just a little bit, but ideally we have to really profoundly learn and be changed by the paths that we've walked in life, by the journey we've had. We have to let that touch us and change us. And then as we come into this moment, however we're living right now, and whatever's here with us now, you can see this on this side, you can see there's like a staff, and I've got my clapping sticks there, little pieces of this moment in my life, things that will kind of come with me forward. We have to take what's here that's beautiful. We have to kind of take what's in our lives right now that really has a place in what lies ahead. We have to take that with us too. And then there's also the mystery of what has never been that we can't even comprehend. We're going to be led on this courageous path to places that we can't even comprehend. And that's what happens when we give ourselves to life, when we truly and profoundly bring ourselves to the path of love. We things happen that we can't even comprehend, can't even imagine. We become what we can't even name. That's what happens. That's how profound and shamanic and radically beautiful it is. We go to places we can't even comprehend. The river of life takes us to all the places we need to go and never knew we had to go to. It will just, the current will take us there. So we're taking a little bit of the past, a little bit of the present, and leaning into what we don't even know. And that's the path of courage, all of that. That's the path of generational dreaming that we're all a part of, actually. And it's tender to be in this at this crossroads moment, and I think many people are, this moment of choosing in quite a big way what lies ahead for them. In quite a big way, what path do they walk in this lifetime? What are they willing, what path are they willing to choose for themselves? Is it going to look like how we've been doing things in the world the last 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 years, valuing those things? Or are we going to shift now? We're going to deepen now, grow now, mature now, and find our way to an even richer current, an even richer path that it actually kind of breaks the world a little bit, kind of dissolves the world a little bit, and asks a lot of us in the process. Those initiations of the last few years, they really, amongst being horrible, there's also beauty in them, and I think that I needed them. I needed what we've journeyed these last few years. I really needed what we've journeyed. It's horrible and challenging and like really horrible, like and really challenging that have been really like extremely challenging. I needed it. Like I profoundly needed it because it has entirely changed the trajectory of my life, and I can feel how it has moved me through layers of sterility and through layers of colonization and through layers of conditioning and just layers of like immaturity, which continue like to move through, by the way. But the initiations really kind of like moved me through them in a really significant way and entirely changed the trajectory of my life. And I chose it. I chose the courageous path. It takes something to choose the courageous path. Yeah. And when I say the courageous path, I mean, there's like the courageous path that someone who's like living, maybe working a 9 to 5 job, it might be courageous for them um, to leave their 9 to 5 job and go all in on their business or whatever, or whatever it is. And then there also comes a moment, a courageous moment, where the person who went all in on their business lets that business or that dreaming fall away, lets it die, lets it dissolve because they find their way to a deeper integrity and a deeper listening, and they connect with a deeper prayer that lives inside them. And so they let whatever it was they were doing fall away and give themselves to what comes next, to the deeper path, to the next round, to the next chapter, to the next dreaming. So we needed these initiations. They were supposed to remake us. They were supposed to shake us up a little bit. They were supposed to be a bit of a slap in the face. Don't know about you, but I got a bit of a slap in the face these last few years. A little bit of a wake up call from creation. And it hasn't just been about like just standing against authority or finding our way to sovereignty, although I know those pieces have been kind of woven into this in some way. But even more so, I feel it's been about sobering up to ourselves, sobering up to the genuine depth of the prayer that we're living in our lives, sobering up to how we've actually been moving and just how conditioned we actually are by the cultural field, by the industry field, by the family field. We're, so deeply conditioned by this kind of sterilized Western world. I don't want to like rag on the Western world. It's just in a particular phase right now where it's lost its way. But it has, it's not as lost its way per se. That's just the short way of saying it. It's just that the Western world is 12 years old and it doesn't know what it's doing. It doesn't know where it's going. It's little. It hasn't properly developed into something sustainable and beautiful yet. Even though it might seem like we're really old, we're only really little. Particularly somewhere like Australia, where I grew up, only a couple of 100 years old. It's a toddler. Culturally, Australia is a toddler. So I kind of was raised in the field of a toddler culture, in the field of a toddler nation, in the leadership of toddler leadership. That was my field. That's what I bathed in and marinated in all my life. So of course I have to go through some collective initiations to sober up a little bit, to look myself in the eye a little bit, to get a bit more honest with myself. And so do you. You needed the initiations of the last few years. And if you're anything like me, then you know that they have like fundamentally moved you, shifted you, deepened you. Probably you can hear that you're being called somewhere deeper, richer, riper, somewhere more honest. And maybe amongst it all, you can feel that call to come forward in the world in some way. There's some kind of stirring inside you to come forward in a way that maybe you haven't before. Even if you've come forward and shown your face and let yourself be known to the others, maybe these last few years has kind of asked you to come forward in a new way, to bring your voice with you as you do. That's what is happening for me right now. It's part of why I'm doing this live. I think it's important that the field that's here with Shannon and I, and the magic and medicine that's here, and from sun up to sundown, we're in kind of the devotional, listening, creationary feel. It's really quite a beautiful play, beautiful and challenging. And so there's kind of a really deep listening that lives here, that I come on these lives and these videos just to offer forward and maybe invite you into, if you can hear me in a deeper way. Maybe there's some version of that you're being called into. Some listenings that you have, some stirrings that you have, some risings that you have that have kind of marinated these last few years, been cooked by the collective initiations, kind of being called forward by this collective journey we've been on. The one that's remade us, rebirthed us, asked us to let go of a lot of what we were to become something even more true, even more honest, even more beautiful, even more us. Yeah. So if that's you, you should come hang out with Shannon and I for 8 weeks and becoming human. I'm not going to speak too much about it. Just want to let you know that it's happening and it's rich and it's real. And we're going to be eye to eye, belly to belly with these kind of stirring currents inside you, and a deeper kind of honesty and a deeper kind of willingness. And yeah, and the love that is growing and building and asking to be let loose in the world. We'll be hanging out there, and it's going to be really lovely. Yeah, these initiations aren't complete yet. There is more ahead for us, more to come. But I think for now, it's really important that we integrate what we've journeyed. That if like the stirring seeds of destiny, I call it the stirring seeds of destiny, have been stirred, if the seeds are waking up, I think it's really important that we bring them forward now. And then we bring them forward from a place of deep love and, as best we can, reverent maturity. A kind of like reverent maturity that didn't live here with us before. Yeah, it's a kind of reverent maturity that it takes a real something to attune to and to drop into, because it lives beyond the modern industrial complex, and it lives beyond a lot of the shadows of this age. Lucy Morris has just kind of mentioned psychedelics as like a opening up. Yeah, hearing you, sister, hearing you with the psychedelic opening that can happen for a lot of us, and also acknowledging, the psychedelic opening that also asks for the precision and direction of lore, Lore, the opening, almost like the expansiveness that then asks for the direction. Both of those are so important for us. Glad you hear me, sister, out there. Thanks for joining. Mm. Yeah, so I just want to finish by saying that it feels tender to do these lives still. I used to do a lot of them all the time. I go back and watch the videos of myself, and I feel like I was really high, like high, like I was speaking from high chakras. I was speaking from a high place. I wasn't like in my body. I wasn't properly in my love. I was really in my performance. I don't want to do that anymore. I think we're past that now. I think what we're asked to do and be is to be human and do love. To really get into the raw, tender honesty of it all, and all this performing, all this, putting something on. Yeah, I think those times are done now. I think the collective initiations have kind of humbled me, at least, out of that to some degree. To some degree, and I hope it's humbled you out of it as well. And maybe you're like me. Maybe you're out there, and it's, when you think of doing a Facebook Live, or something. It's so funny talking about lives in this world. Anyway, if you're out there thinking about doing lives as just as one of the forms of like bringing yourself forward and offering your love to the whole, to the collective, offering your listenings that you've worked really hard for, the listenings you've bled for, sweated for, cried for, you know, you want to offer them forward. Of course you do. And these are just one of the ways to do that in this time, but it can still be really scary and tender to bring ourselves forward when what is inside us is so, like, really, it's here to kind of crumble the existing narratives of our age and to refine and redefine society itself. That can be scary. It can be really tender when what we have to bring forward is here to redefine the field we're offering it to. I'm not here saying things trying to preach the choir. I'm here calling you deeper than you are right now. I'm here calling you into what's next, calling you into a deeper integrity, calling you into an even deeper love and into an even deeper willingness. Maybe some of you might hear that, others might not. It's tender. It's tender to come forward and to put this call out. And you'll find it as well if you find your way to having your voice in the field. Not the voice of like sharing what you've learnt from the world, but the voice of what has woken up inside you. That was there all along, like the timeless voice. If you come to sharing your timeless voice, it's tender. It's a rare thing. It breaks the age. It breaks the ideas of the age. Yeah, so blessings for you on your path of bringing forward your offerings that break our age. I want them. I really crave them. I want my age to be broken, please. Break my age. Someone broke my age. Oh Lord. Yeah. Yeah, that's the kind of the radical revelation within it, is that, like, this isn't about business. This isn't about money. This isn't about power. This isn't, well, it is, but about power structures. This is about how creation dreams itself beautifully, and being a part of that, bringing ourselves forward to be a part of a sustainable dream, a beautiful dream, a multi-generational dream that gets better as time goes on and doesn't decline and become more sterile and more disconnected. And I think if you're anything like me, you can feel inside you the place where that passion lives, to be a part of something that brings even more beauty to the world. I think it's a really human, innate part of us, actually. It just takes a little courage to choose that courageous path. Yeah, thank you for your time. Just some little whispers by a parson brother. Glad you're hearing me, Lucy Pascoe. Thanks for joining. I love you all. And yeah, have a beautiful afternoon.